In this episode, we're summarizing the second episode from Season 2 of the Wire series titled Collateral Damage. The episode first aired on June 8, 2003. In the beginning, Officer Beatty Russell finds herself entangled in a bureaucratic maze as various agencies attempt to determine the appropriate entity to investigate the tragic deaths of the 13 women discovered inside a cargo container. Coroner Randall Frazier meticulously establishes suffocation as the cause of death, attributing it to a crushed air pipe located at the top of the container. The damage to the air supply is deemed accidental, resulting from the shipping cargo. Consequently, the case is handed back to Officer Russell as the deaths are classified as accidental. Later on, we see Detectives Bunk and McNulty eating some crabs, a welcomed perk of McNulty's new job assignment. McNulty is keen on avoiding Colonel Rawls, insisting on keeping the door closed. Bunk learns of McNulty's 3-hour endeavor to determine the precise location where a floating body was dumped, strategically placing it under Rawls' jurisdiction. While meeting with the coroner, Beatty Russell and McNulty present their findings, leading to the consensus that these deaths should be considered murders instead. Colonel Rawls engages in a meeting with Robert Norris, commander of the police port, and he staunchly resists efforts to transfer the responsibility for the 13 murders to him. Meanwhile, McNulty persuades Randall Frazier to estimate the time of death based on the air supply remaining in the container, in an attempt to correlate it with the moment the other girl was dumped into the water. Rawls subsequently meets with Robert Norris and the commanders from Baltimore County, Arundel County, and the Coast Guard. Despite Rawls' protests, they firmly assert that the murders fall within his jurisdiction instead. The cases are finally assigned to Landsman's squad. As we catch back up with Rhonda Perlman and McNulty, we see they find themselves entangled in a complicated romance. In a moment of reflection, Perlman questions the direction of their relationship and explicitly asks McNulty to refrain from visiting her home again. McNulty, seeking reconciliation with his estranged wife for the sake of their children, honestly admits his intentions to Perlman, prompting her to distance herself from him even further. In another scene, Lieutenant Daniels takes a leisurely stroll alongside his wife Marla after a pleasant meal at a local restaurant. Recognizing her previous discussion regarding his career, Marla offers a sincere apology, to which Daniels accepts by agreeing to submit his resignation papers. In the atmospheric ambiance of the Greek's cafe, Frank Sabaka, the leader of the Dock Workers Union, engages in a charged meeting with his smuggling confidant Spiros. Their discussion centers on the haunting discovery of the dead young women found on Frank's docks. Frank becomes obsessed with learning how this could have happened. Frank knows the deaths of all those women could have been avoided. Attempting to decrease Frank's distress, Von thus assures him that the deaths were indeed accidental. He proceeds to elaborate on the situation, revealing that their driver, Sergei, had been patiently awaiting a contact from the ship, a signal indicating the container's safety for transportation. Returning to the Union House, Thomas Pacuza approaches Frank Sabatka, voicing his frustration over the port police's relentless harassment regarding missing cases of vodka. Frank, however, remains unperturbed by the situation. Shortly thereafter, Ott barges in, adding his own grievances to the mix. The police are incessantly ticketing their cars, he says. Seizing the opportunity, Frank confronts the officer responsible for the tickets, only to discover that it is none other than Sergeant Ellis Carver, now back in uniform. Carver tells Frank that Major Valchek ordered him to ticket them, and he will continue to do so because his job is to follow the chain of command. The next day, Nick, Ziggy, and their fellow stevedores gather at Dolores' bar, defying the conventional norms of breakfast time. Amidst their camaraderie, Ziggy initiates a discussion about an acquaintance named White Mike, an individual known to provide a steady supply of illicit substances and drugs. Ziggy, fueled by his ambitions, urges Nick to join forces with him in purchasing the package and subsequently profiting from its distribution. However, Nick declines the offer, choosing a different path for himself altogether. The routine takes an unexpected turn when Ott interrupts the conversation, announcing the arrival of a ship, Ott offers Nick a ride to the docks. Unfortunately, their journey is abruptly interrupted as they encounter a checkpoint established by patrol officers led by none other than Carver, again being ordered to do so by Major Valchek. Stepping out of the vehicle, Ott voices his disbelief at the administration of a breathalyzer test in the early hours of the morning, deeming it an uncommon practice. Remember, I am summarizing this entire series, as well as other popular works of literature, movies, and TV shows as well. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next episode or series. If you would like to see the playlists of our summaries, click on the link in the description. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter for additional content. If you find our content valuable, consider supporting us on Patreon if you can. Doing this helps my channel out tremendously. I really thank you for your support. Ziggy, seeking to rectify his past mistakes, meets with White Mike alone, beseeching him to entrust him with the desired package, assuring payment at a later date. Unfortunately for Ziggy, his previous blunders have eroded the trust between them, leading Mike to reject his plea altogether. After facing the consequences of their actions, particularly Ott's release from central booking following charges of driving under the influence, the dock workers with Ott at the forefront approach Frank to voice their grievances regarding the intrusive police activity they continually face. Frank acknowledges his long-standing rivalry with Major Valchek and assumes responsibility for the entire situation. It is during this conversation that Frank reveals his firm stance, proclaiming that if Valchek seeks a war, he will indeed have one. As we catch up with Avon Barksdale, his sister Brianna pays a visit to him, imploring him to watch over her son, D'Angelo, who willingly accepted a burdensome 20-year sentence as a way of helping out the family. They delve into the unfortunate loss of their New York connection, Roberto, and Brianna reveals that their funds have been returned safely. Stringer Bell, entrusted with managing affairs in Avon's absence, had to confront Roberto's attorney because they did not want to engage with the Barksdale organization while Avon remained in prison. In response to this predicament, Avon proposes a contact by the name of Vargas, situated in Atlanta. Additionally, Brianna expresses her concerns about the absence of D'Angelo's girlfriend, Donnette, and Avon himself has observed her prolonged absence from visiting D'Angelo. Later on, Stringer visits Avon at the prison, delivering news of progress regarding the Atlanta contact. Avon, recognizing the need for assistance, implores Stringer to help him address the Tillman situation and ensure regular visits from Donnette to D'Angelo. Inquiring about D'Angelo's loyalty, Stringer seeks reassurance from Avon, who staunchly asserts that D'Angelo can be trusted to carry his burden, given their familial bond. In a follow-up scene with Avon, we discover D'Angelo using drugs. Avon then approaches D'Angelo to tell him how this can negatively hurt their future. As we catch back up with the Sabakas, in the realm of the Sabaka detail, Valchek assumes the role of conductor, assembling his team and providing them with a comprehensive briefing within the confines of their portside offices. Valchek profoundly introduces his son-in-law, Prez, as a top-notch investigator and the lead of the operation. Little does Valchek know, Irvin Burrell has executed a similar maneuver as he did with Lieutenant Daniels back in Season 1. Burrell has sent Valchek a group of officers who possess questionable competence, serving as nothing more than dead weight within their respective units. This fact becomes evident when confronted with the presence of Detective Polk, an individual preoccupied solely with overtime approval. In another scene, Sergei embarks in a journey with his associate, infiltrating another port located in Philadelphia by assuming false identities as members of the Coast Guard. Their first course of action involves ordering the ship to remain docked, compelling one of the crew members to disembark. In a reckless pursuit, they give chase, apprehending the crewman and subjecting him to physical violence before forcibly placing him in the rear seat of their vehicle. Sergei and his accomplices engage in a brutal interrogation of the now stripped crewman named Sam, demanding answers regarding his sudden escape from the vessel Atlantic Light. The Greek and Spiros make their entrance, with the Greek initially appearing to possess a more benevolent demeanor. However, his attention is drawn to Sam's tattoos, leading him to deduce the crewman's Turkish origin. Sam confesses that he allowed his crew to engage in illicit activities with the girls found inside the container, driven by financial greed, Tragically, one of his men committed the unspeakable act of taking out one of the girls, prompting the execution of the remaining witnesses. With Sam's narrative reaching its conclusion, Spiros takes him out. The Greek commands Sergei to meticulously erase any trace of fingerprints or facial features from the lifeless body, ensuring the preservation of their insidious operation. That was episode number 15, titled Collateral Damage. To watch the next or previous episode summary, click on the link in the description or at the end of this video. In the description, you will also find additional links for supporting our channel. See you in the next episode. Goodbye. We upload new videos every week, so subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Click the notification bell to be notified of when we upload these videos. See you on the next episode of Culture Screen.